Chasing versus magnetizing. This is going to completely change your life. I'm Samantha Blossom, your manifestation mentor, opulence oracle, and I'm so excited to dive into this specific topic. So, I am personally in human design. I'm a generator. I'm a 4-6 sacral generator. And I think that magnetism is something that pretty much it would apply to everyone, every sign, wherever you're at. And I'm just getting all my jitters out. I'm like, "Ugh, okay, finally starting my YouTube channel again. Okay, trial 5. This is me trialing 5. Feeling a little tension in my neck, feeling a little like, oh. All right. Here we go. I'm not cutting this. It's going to be in the video. Okay. Chasing versus magnetism. How does this work? How does this work? How does this work? Okay. First, we get to understand a philosophy of life around energy. That energy is everything. And when you have the right energy, people want to be around you. They're obsessed with you. They want to be around you. They want to buy your stuff, all the things. So while I'm recording this, I'm currently 42. And this has taken me so long to figure out because I would land on it. I would be like, oh, I'm doing the thing. I'm magnetizing. It's happening. And then all of a sudden I would get back into this, like this very subconscious, like chase feeling like, oh, why doesn't he like me? Oh no, why isn't this person signing up to work with me? Like, why am I not manifesting getting the thing? So I think this one thing, when you can really master this, is going to just change your world so much. And I've tested it out and it works. And I'm very, very excited. Okay. So let's start with that philosophy that everything is energy. And what is it that everyone actually wants? They want energy. They want more energy. And when you're the one that has like the most filled up cup, you have the most colors, you have the most vibrancy, people are like, I don't know what that is. I just like really want some of that. And I want to buy the thing and I want to be around the person and I want to all the things. Okay, so this starts with the observation of myself, of understanding, okay, what was happening? I would meet these guys, they would be so excited about me, like totally like flirting with me, all the things. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, but now they're not into me. What is that? What am I doing? And I realized that I had this habit of the moment that I thought someone maybe liked me, and then I would actually start to think about them. And I would put my life force basically projecting energy onto them. I was like pulling at them, attaching, all these interesting things. I didn't really know that I was like even doing it. And so what I started to do instead was I would think about them, be excited about them, but then I would circulate the energy back inside and I would bring this like beautiful, sparkly gold light running through my body. I bring the gold light energy back into my body, back into my body. And this is something we often hear. We're like, self-love, cultivate self-love. And I love that. And at the same time, when I heard that, I was like, I don't really understand what that means. Like, well, how do I love myself? Like, aren't I loving myself? I'm pretty sure I'm loving myself, especially during that time. I was like, I'm eating the right foods, I'm working out, I have awesome friends. Like, I take care of like all my physical items, everything. I'm like, what am I not doing? Aren't I loving myself? Like, I don't get it. And I finally saw the subtle energetics of what I was doing. It was like I was chasing. And even if I wasn't conversationally chasing, even if I wasn't saying that I was chasing the person, I was energetically chasing the person. And what's really fascinating, deeper behind what I was doing was I was thinking this person needs healing. And it was this very old habit from when I was a child. I was like, I was thinking, I think my mom needs healing, or I don't know exactly like where that started, but I started to see the world from this perspective of it needed my help or it needed my support. And so instead of just accepting and loving the person exactly the way they were, I was doing something where I was like taking my energy and wanting to help them and wanting to fix them, which as loving as that is, it's a little bit disempowering. It's basically saying, I don't think you could do it on your own. Let me help you do it. So I don't know if you have that pattern in yourself, but let's keep going with this. I think it's gonna be good. So how often, so think about those times when you're what are you doing when you're chasing? And what happens in the life force, in the force field when you're chasing? It doesn't feel good. It feels like, something's missing. It feels like a little bit depressing. It feels like depletion. And why does that happen? Because the universe allocated life force for you. And the universe allocated that life force for that person and all these things, right? So when we start to go into take or pull or chase mode, we are distorting our life force field. We're saying, like instead of fueling this, like take this energy and fuel this other person. And that can get really sticky. So I work with amazing entrepreneurs, multimillionaires, all the things. And I was like, what are they doing? They're waking up and they're feeling panic in their body and they're feeling anxiety and they're feeling all these things. And I was like, what is it that they're doing? And it was so fast. I could shift it so quickly. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're chasing the energy. They're chasing. They're like, that external thing, I want that. I'm going to project my energy out, try to grab it and take it. And that always leaves you feeling depleted because then you're trying to control the external hologram. You're trying to control the external world. And you're thinking, yeah, like if I could get this thing to do this, that's going to make me happy. And that it doesn't work like that. It's just so fascinating. It's all about energy. So once you start to, so what happens instead? You get excited. You're thinking about the thing that you want to manifest. You're thinking about the client, the person, the guy, the car, the whatever. Think about the imagery, get excited, but then pull your energy back, bring the gold light back into your body. So this beautiful, whether you want to use the color gold or platinum liquid or pink or soft blues, aquamarines, everyone's going to kind of gravitate towards some different colors. But think about it's you bringing your life force back into your body. If you've done any of Joe Dispenza's work, he has you do these meditations where it's like you really think deeply on each of your chakras. He may not call them, he calls them energy centers, I think, but it's like you're focusing on you. You're focusing on this vehicle, like this being. And when you do that, you are charging up you. You're charging up your life force. You're charging up your hologram. So when I started this work of teaching about wealth energetics and opulence and all these things, it started with this deep love for healers. I was like, oh, like if these healers have such a hard time charging for what they do, how are we ever going to change the world, right? And what is the consciousness of the healer? The healer is like, oh, okay, this person in front of me, I love them so much. I want to boost up their life force, like, right? And so in that process, we would accidentally potentially like take our life force and say, hey, I'm going to offer this for you. And like, and so then it starts to create this like depletion cycle. And so not everyone does this. Some people just know how to protect their life force. It's something that they have maybe had passed down in their ancestry. I've seen certain doctors where I'm just like, I'm so impressed. I'm like, whoa, they have like incredible boundaries. They can work for long hours. They stay in their life force. They stay in their energy field. And some, others, like they haven't been trained to do it. And so they're leaking their energy all the time. They start to get tired. They start to gain weight. They start to do all these things, right? And weight gain is another interesting thing. So, variations of chasing versus fulfillment. So, let's see the root of chasing. The root of chasing is lack. It's saying, I don't have enough here, so I need to pull from out there to get something. So, the root of chasing is already lack. Now, the root of magnetism is I am in sweet, delicious overflow. I am in so much overflow, and people feel that they're like, "What's she feels so good. Her energy feels so good." They say, you know, or think about when you go to a beautiful place, when you go to a space that's just so gorgeous, luxurious. I'm here in Palm Beach, Florida, so I'm thinking of like the Breaker Hotel. Like, every time I go there, I just feel right? And there's these spaces where you just feel that luxury and you feel that overflow and you're like, I just want to go there. What did that space do? That space magnetized you there. What does the person do? The person's like, I feel so good inside. My whole body's filled up with gold sparkly light. It's swishing, it's swirling, it's inside. It's so cool. I love it so much. And so that's the little magic trick. So I kind of want to share a little embarrassing story because it's always so fun. I really liked this guy. And we went on like I went downstairs, I had my dogs, I ran into this guy, and we had this 2 hour long walk. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. I was like, how can I just go downstairs, meet a guy, talk about manifestation, talk about Tony Robbins, talk about all these things, like everything was so flowy. I'm like, how did that just happen? Oh my gosh, you know? And that's the thing. I was in the flow state, I was in the miracle, and I had my energy like in me, in my body, like the gold light. I literally just had I was taking a body intuitive class. So I'd been sitting for about 6 hours, probably like adjusting my life force, bringing all the gold light into my body. So it would make sense. I was in a high frequency. So then I just walked into a guy that I liked, magnetized, went through all the things. And at the end of the walk, he didn't ask for my number. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I ever going to see this person again? I went into lack and chase so fast. I didn't even know that I was doing it. I was like, oh my gosh, like, what if I never see him again? I'm like, what's going to happen? And I'm thinking from a very like entrepreneurial, like, okay, I gotta like make sure I capture this opportunity. So I like left my business card at the front desk for him. And then it was like we never had a normal interaction again. It was always like it felt like so much repelling. It felt like all these things. And I'm like, what happened? And I finally, like, this is months later, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was chasing. That's what happened. And when I'm chasing, I'm putting my energy outside of me and I'm saying, take this life force and use it on this person instead. And so was so fascinated because I think I did this work for 2 days of like, okay, I'm gonna call all my energy back, bring the gold light into my system. And then I ran into him at the pool yesterday and we had our first normal encounter for in months. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I was doing. So what happens when we do that, right? It's like people can't feel who you actually are anymore. They're feeling you pull at them. They're feeling you attached to something. And it's very subconscious. You're like, I don't know what it is, but I'm just like, I'm feeling something. I'm feeling a grabby energy. I'm feeling like, imagine each person is already like, this is all the life force I have. And then you're pulling life force from me. Like, that does not feel good, So imagine like that's what's happening in the field. Now, when we keep pulling, when we keep conditioning and teaching ourselves, like, let's take this life force, this gold light, and fuel it into our bodies, then you become like this really yummy, like, life force field. So, there's so many different ways to get there. There's mindset, there's emotions, there's energy, there's the foods you eat, the space that you have. In one of my programs called The Story, we go through little tiny, like we keep fine tuning. What's the story that you're telling yourself? What story are you saying here? What story are you saying here? Because one story will take you to a dark place, and one story will ascend your force field, rise you up, and get you back into that magnetism. So if you're interested in something that's going to step by step support you in getting out of the chase and into magnetism, the story is so great for you. Now, also our physical space will create chase or magnetism, because think about when a space is like so luxurious, it feels beautiful, it's emotionally clear, like all these things, something about the space, people want to be in it. They're like, that space, I want to show up, I want to arrive, right? And so inside of Lotus and Blossom, the mastermind, we're going to go through, teach you how to redesign your space and actually make your whole space like a magnetic like force field. So the force field is all created from the thoughts, the beliefs, the conversations, the emotions. What command do you give to your physical space? What are you telling your physical space to be? Are you telling your physical space like, I can't do it on my own and I'm like scared? Is that the predominant conversation? Or are you telling your physical space like, you are a money magnet, you magnetize good luck, love, opportunities, all the things, and the physical space, like the beauty of it actually reflects it too. Right. So I think that this is such a huge topic of chase versus magnetism. So now let's talk about the consciousness of creation and creating, because when we are taking action from the consciousness of chase, it's going to keep feeling like it's just not enough, right? It's like, I just grabbed this, now I'm using it, and now it's like not enough. When we keep cultivating, and for some of you, this is going to take longer, but that's not a bad thing. You have to think about past lives, ancestral programming. How long has that life force been trained to operate in that way? Some patterns are really deep. A self-sacrifice is a huge pattern. So, what is the pattern of self-sacrifice? The pattern of self-sacrifice is saying, okay, don't bring the life force here. Put a little bit here, just enough so I can like make sure I'm still alive. And let's take the rest of it and put it everywhere else. So that's the and what is that self-sacrifice program? It is literally a habit in the cellular system. Your DNA, your RNA is like, yeah, I mean, grandma did it, great grandma did it, grandpa did it, great grandpa did it. That's the habit in the system. And that habit, what is that habit going to create? This perpetual sensation of, I'm so tired, I'm not enough, like, I don't have enough energy, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough friends, whatever that is. It's going to perpetuate that cycle, because at the root of it, it's saying, I'm not enough, right? So all the actions that come from chase, and this is going a little bit deep, but I started to look up some historical things around, like when did the world wars kind of start? And a lot of it was, okay, so this is like a fun history story. And I'm not going to say that these are like complete accurate details. I'm just going to say that it gives us some perspective to understand why it's so important to be magnetizing versus chasing. Why our global leaders need to learn this manifestation technique. Why our CEOs, our business owners, like super entrepreneurs, why this piece is so important, because when the leader shifts, the entire business culture changes. When the leader shifts, the consciousness of the country changes. So this one piece is incredibly valuable, so valuable. Okay, so I just was in Taiwan for 12 days, and it's Chinese New Year's. And I am looking at it with new eyes. I haven't been back to Taiwan for 5 years. And this time I'm looking at it from the space of what? Like, why? Why is this happening? And okay, so historically, the last dynasty, of course, like, please don't quote me, like, and you might need to like look through the historical details to double check, but the last dynasty was the Qing dynasty. In the Qing dynasty, there was an empress, and this empress came from a concubine family, which is not normal. Usually, so traditionally, this is like what's kind of said is traditionally in China, they they had the philosophy of if you have a happy family is going to create a happy nation. So they didn't really build their army to protect themselves from other countries. Like that was not their goal. Their goal was not really to like fight other countries, take over any of those things. If anything, they were really practicing magnetism on a deep level. So you go to the museums and you see ancient Chinese art and you're like, what the heck? It was like beautiful, huge dragon carved like jade and gold, and their clothes were so incredible. The gardens were so beautifully, meticulously created. And I was like, okay, so then at what changed? Like, why is it that China often currently creating materials that are just like not very high quality. And I was like, okay, so but historically, the culture was a super abundant culture, like very rich. And I'm like, what happened? Okay, so during the Qing dynasty, that empress, she no longer practiced that magnetism. She actually went into some kind of fear and overprotection mode. So the UK, the British wanted to trade with China. They wanted to trade tea. And the Chinese were, that empress was like, no, we don't need it. And they really didn't. The China was very super abundant. It had all the spices, had silks, had everything it needed. And so the British started smuggling opium into China. So they started smuggling opium, and that created the opium wars. And the Chinese, like the people there, like really suffered from opium. Like obviously their bodies were different. It was like probably taking it in even more. It was impacting the community even more. And so that's the start of a spiral of negativity. And it was this energy of like, I want something from you, so I'm going to take it. I'm going to forcefully take it versus magnetism, right? That already initially started that. Then these like different countries started to communicate, and they all kind of wanted to take China down as a superpower. I think at some point over 11 countries over time like attacked China. And I was like, oh, so what we're seeing collectively right now in China is a collective group of people that are operating from consciousness of suffering. Like they weren't able to, that's not what I meant, not suffering, survival. They were operating on survival mode. They couldn't get back up into the higher chakras. So ancient Chinese were operating with full chakra systems. Their nervous systems were not affected by war at that time. So they're channeling beautiful art. They're channeling like exquisite, like like the most beautiful things. And war destroyed the immune system and the nervous system, broke it down, slowed down that like flow of life, and they weren't creating at that same level of genius anymore. And I was just like, whoa, I had that huge epiphany. And then I noticed all the building structures in Taiwan and all these things. I was like, wait, in ancient China, the building structures were so beautiful. They were so like magnificent. It would be like if you were going to Italy or Europe and you're seeing the beautiful architecture, that's when the nervous system is intact and it's channeling and downloading and creating something from that space of wholeness, right? So when the artists in Europe are channeling like art and like the architecture, that all comes from magnetism. That comes from something in their bodies like, I am so whole and so fulfilled. I'm going to bring this piece of art through. I'm going to build this building. That all comes from magnetism. When we start to go into chase and taking, we're coming from that space of lack. We're coming from the space of, I'm not enough. I don't have this. So let me grab it from you because you're going to give it to me. And by taking it, it's going to make me fulfilled. Do you see how this one tiny little shift in consciousness would literally change our entire planet? How is a mom going to feel when she learns about magnetism, right? When she's no longer chasing, she's no longer saying, oh, why is he not, why is my husband not doing this for me? Why isn't he doing this for me? We're no longer using our mind to wish someone external was doing something other than what they're doing. Instead, we're taking all that beautiful energy and focusing on what's the most beautiful, most exquisite energy force field that I could create right now. And by you creating it from within, you start to see the mirror of the external world show you more overflow. By magnetizing, here's the other really cool part about magnetizing is when you get into that overflow state, you're just saying, universe, what's for me? Like, if this super abundant highway of energy and life force is like all here, what's actually for me? Like, what is allocated to me? Then you start to manifest and magnetize things that are your birthright. And here's what's crazy is that's actually going to bring you more fulfillment than anything else. When you start to bring your receptor sites, your force field, your energy field, like you take time to fill this up, the things that come to you, like the people that you date, the customers that you have, the clients that show up, the ideas for marketing, like how you design your home space, everything that shows up and arrives from the space of magnetism, it feels exhilarating. It feels like life force fulfilling. Now, on the way to magnetism, I'm not saying it's actually a completely easy process, which is not partially, which is exactly why I created the story. And I also created with Lotus and Blossom, the mastermind, because I know this deconditioning work is not an overnight thing. For some of us, it's been conditioned into our systems for like lifetimes, for ancestor after ancestor. Like we've been conditioned to think, there's not enough, like scarcity is real, we're gonna run out of this and that. And we take all of these total tiny little micro actions that come from that grasping, not enough energy, and we wonder why we don't feel good. We wonder why we're not fulfilled. Now, when you're magnetizing, you're actually in the receptive mode. You're saying, everything in life already exists. Let me just receive it, take it in, and enjoy it. And why this feels so good when you're receiving, it's kind of like you're breathing so much, you're like actually taking in the vitamins that life has. You're actually taking life force and you're saying, let me breathe it in, let me take it in. And what's interesting as you practice this receiving, you're like breathing in the trees, you're breathing in the sky, you're like actually receiving life. One, you start to instruct the things that are for you to come to you. And why I was saying that part of magnetism that's so fascinating is your system is so wise. Your body is so wise. Your body is literally going to say, I know exactly what's right for her. I know exactly what's right for him. And when this person's breathing in, receiving, and taking things in, like these are the things that are supposed to, like that she's supposed to have right now, that he's supposed to have right now. And you just receive and you receive and you receive, and the things that are for you, like mirrors, just pop up and show up. and then you receive it, you enjoy it, you love it, and you do the next thing. Now, I know when we logically hear receiving, we're like, wait, is that being selfish? But no, what happens when you really are receiving, you actually give from a space of power and extraordinary energy, because you're saying, I'm just going to keep receiving, and then I'm going to give here, and then I'm going to receive, and then I'm going to give here. And so it circulates, and it's infinite. And there's not enough of this. So where does that lack come from? Like I said, it's a habit. It's a habit in the system. And okay, so I was talking about, on your way to discovering magnetism, it may not always feel good. And why does it not always feel good as we're deconditioning? The moment we see the limitation, the limiting belief, the lack, the whatever that is, there's a process of alchemy that has to happen. We get to look at it, that very uncomfortable emotion, the very uncomfortable feeling that comes up while you're peeling away the layers. In that moment, hydrogen bonds are breaking. In that moment, it's a little bit of an ego death. It's a little bit of, oh my gosh, these molecules, this belief system's been stuck like this. We gotta like shake it up and break it up. We have to break this apart, reorganize the whole field, create space, and let more flow in, let more magnetism in. I've worked with thousands of clients at this point. The way that looks is someone sometimes might have a deep cold and they have to go down, process. When you have a cold, what happens? It kind of takes you out of the game, and you're just working. You're just so focused on you and your body. You can go in and do like the deep software updates for your body. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's like purging your whole house. Sometimes it's breaking up with a relationship. Sometimes, it's not that you're not chasing change. You just are changing. You are observing it from a new perspective, and you're saying, oh, I was operating from chase. I was operating from lack. I was operating from the perpetual belief that I'm not enough, that this isn't enough. And oh, now I want to come to the truth of, I'm an infinite eternal being, and life is infinite, and there's always going to be more, and I've lived this long, so I know more always shows up. More people, more friends, more spaces, more money, more opportunities. Like, I've lived long enough to actually see and know more always shows up. So in that process of looking like a detective, looking at the middle, like looking at the thought of the limiting belief, the lack, the ego, it can be really uncomfortable. And that's why it's so great to have a mentor, to have a coach, to have a guide to remind you, hey, you're just looking at the illusion. Everything's fine. Like, look at the illusion. It's okay. Like, look at it. Let's look at it together. I know it's so scary. It looks so scary, but I promise you, you're always safe. You're always so held by the universe. The universe wants to see you succeed. The universe is like, honestly, you're so safe. We're inside a hologram. Everything's empty space and molecules anyways. And I would love for you to learn this. And when you do, on the other side, you're going to get these virtues. It's going to be awesome. Like, you are going to remember that you are an expanded being. And that is the video game. The video game is this remembering that you are actually this open, incredible, infinite, expanded being that can create anything. And it's just this peeling away, peeling away, peeling away process. And when you know that you are everything, you can create everything, you come back to magnetism. Can you imagine what will happen on a global level as our leaders learn about this one thing? As businesses learn about this one thing, what happens when an entire culture of a business begins to understand the energy of magnetism? Can you even imagine the level of stress that leaves a huge company with like thousands of employees, or Can you imagine what that feels like for them? Just thinking about it, I'm like, wow, we live in a completely different universe. What would happen if little kids learned this? They learned about magnetism. They learned about, okay, bring the life force into your body. Fill your body up with colors, with beautiful lights, with incredible sound. Feed yourself nourishing food. Take care of this vehicle. Things will change for you, they'll transform for you. The other amazing thing about filling yourself up with beautiful food, conversations, rich energy, all these things, as you do this for you, you create this ripple effect for the people around you. Something about just who you be begins to create that trickle effect, that energy, that ripple effect. So, again, if you're ready to do the deep dive, the story, it's a beautiful program. I think about it like you're investing in seeing life in a completely new perspective. Like you're seeing life and you're creating with so much more awareness and you're realizing what you're doing. So then what you create from now actually is more aligned with you and it makes more sense. It actually feels so much more incredible. So we have the story, we have the Lotus and Blossom Mastermind. It's going to be 6 beautiful, incredible months where we're uninstalling your hologram that was any part of your past reality created from fear, created from lack, created from worry or anxiety, lovingly dismantling this. And we're going to open up a future world, a beautiful hologram where piece by piece, things are created from love, created from intention, created from like exhilarating energy, extraordinary life force. And as we build this new hologram, we're looking through your home space, your car, your closet, like we're piece by piece bringing in things that you actually love, that actually sparks joy. We're teaching you, guiding you, oh, this material actually sparks joy. This food actually is nourishing. Listening to this music actually makes me come alive, like piece by piece. We're restructuring your world and taking away all the micro suffering because it's not like this world is meant to feel so good. It's meant to be so beautiful. If we go back to the middle of my talk here, I was talking about the world wars, and I'm like, can you imagine if instead of focusing on that, we created ecosystems that were like, we created like these beautiful, gorgeous universes and worlds. Right now, we have more than enough food to feed the entire planet. We have more than enough housing. Can you imagine if we all focused, like we set the news aside, and we were like, let's come together. Let's build something amazing. Let's create something extraordinary. Let's get all of our imagination on board for happy schools, amazing teachers, like beautiful water systems. Like, let's all come together and create that. Can you imagine if every news channel was like obsessed with talking about, oh my gosh, we just built like this new school. We built this beautiful water system. Like we have these new filtration systems. There's sacred geometry going into these. Like, can you imagine what would happen on a global level if we all just changed the channel? We all just decided, let's just channel creativity. Let's just celebrate every day. Just deciding to celebrate every day, that would change the whole world. So I'm so excited. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. I'm Samantha Blossom, your manifestation mentor, opulence oracle. If you are new in my world, I would love for you to press subscribe. I do have a beautiful treat, a free masterclass for you. It's called Pleasure to Riches because you are born to be so abundant. You are born to be overflowing with incredible, beautiful life. I'm so excited to walk with you, chat with you step by step, rediscover. Let's make life so amazing together. Sending you all the love sparkles.